So, as I was introduced, my name is Charles Goforth, and I'm with Clumio. And Justin?
Justin Stottlemyer from Intuit.
And little known fact that people might not know, but Intuit was one of a handful of software companies that was founded in the 1980s, and you're still in existence. And that's not by coincidence, but you guys are willing to take risk and change your business model and an as needed basis and be able to forecast changing the trends of what your consumers are looking for, right?
That's right. Intuit does not suffer from the innovator's dilemma. We will disrupt ourselves before anyone else does. And so the goal there is really to continually innovate, to adopt the cloud to drive that agility. The cost of not doing business is way more than the cost of being agile. And so you must be fast, you must fail fast, you must innovate. And if you don't, you will be overtaken by someone else. And that's what's one of the Intuit's staples. Fail fast, move fast, innovate, and provide customer value.
And I'm guessing choosing the right platform that you provide your services to your customer, that has to meet the flexibility and the demand. And that's a big part of the success from Intuit.
Absolutely. I mean, Intuit has been an on-prem hosted company for years, and now we're 75% in the cloud, and we're moving there 100% in the future. What that really means for Intuit is how do we provide customer value, how do we continue to stay ahead of the competition, and how do we continue to drive agility? Intuit's been on a cloud journey for the last 8 years, and initially we took a developer-first strategy that was really open it up. If they build it, they will come. It really didn't pan out. And so the first 5 years of that journey, Intuit made very little progress. And so when we leaned in the next 3 years, what we really came to believe was that data has gravity, and it brings other applications along with it. So when you let people go into the cloud, what you'll find is you'll get your small applications running, but they're cloud native, they're small, there's little services. It's not the big portion of your enterprise that's really important. It's not your money makers, it's not your QuickBooks Online, it's not your TurboTax. So you have to take a really strong stance, and you have to have a strong leadership team that will lead in and drive that innovation by driving and pushing your teams into those areas. And then as those larger sets of data get into the cloud or to whatever platform you're choosing, it will draw the rest of the applications in along with it. See, they put my slide up. So I am Justin Stottlemyer. I've got about 8 different titles at Intuit, and one of them is Director of Network Engineering, which didn't make it up today. But I am absolutely passionate about data protection. I have been at eBay, PayPal, Facebook, Shutterfly, companies with a lot of data. I understand what it looks like, and if you've ever lost your phone, you know how much it sucks when you lose data. You don't want to do it. Intuit processes 30% of the nation's GDP today. And that sounds like an amazing metric until you think that we actually process 40% of the nation's taxes, which means if that's not running, you're getting a call for your government, which none of us want. So I have actually had to sign off in the past to Congress saying, yes, we have backups. It is an amazingly important thing. Everything that Intuit has is about data. It's not the platform we run on, it's not the other services we run, it is all about the data. That is the lifeblood of the company. And that's how we provide value to our customers. That's how we power prosperity. Intuit's mission is to take everything we do and put money not back into the hands of the people that are in this room, high-tech earners. It's people that run the rest of this economy. Everyone that sits at a hairdresser that's living paycheck to paycheck, we're powering that prosperity and making the world a better place for them. And that's why I'm passionate about Intuit and passionate about our customers' data. We have over 700 different applications, and you can imagine that there's multiple ways that you have to back up all of these components. It's not just file, it's not just block, there's RDS, there's EFS. Even Amazon doesn't back up all of these products in a native way today. So we lean in with a handful of different products, even roll our own in some cases. We're absolutely taking a cloud-first strategy, and we're driving towards a simple model. What that simplicity means is take something like SaaS, where you can, and stop working on backups. I am passionate about it. I care about our data, but it's not where I want to spend my time day to day.
Makes sense. And when we look at the stats that Intuit has today, when you guys have over 3,000 AWS accounts, it's showing that you guys are all in on the cloud, that it helps you in your innovation, that you can have iterative, continuous improvements in your environment without having to have like a year dot release. And so therefore you're able to provide services to your customers on an agile basis and in very quick fashion, right?
Absolutely. It's all about agility, CI/CD, continual development, continuous delivery. And one of the things that we really get out of that is the ability to continually innovate, and that is just priceless.
And the services that you depend upon to have to be just as innovative and just as agile. So if we're talking about other services, the value for you guys to be in and write your own exchange probably isn't there. And if you're looking at being able to do continually to be disruptive, you want to have the tools that you depend upon to be just as innovative, continuously improving in a daily basis.
Absolutely. I mean, Intuit's doing really well. You can look at the profit statement. It's a growing company. We have a lot of money, but we want to do everything that we can to be as operationally efficient, as cost effective, and to deliver value at the end of the day. And when you're doing that, you still want to be agile, fast. It's always about being cheaper, faster, and better than the next guy, because you can take those resources and apply them back into your business out of the things that are context and back into the core of driving value to your customers and your business.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we should add to this is, SaaS is winning. It's simple. You get to have the best practices at a consumption model. Intuit should probably be in there too.
Absolutely. We are completely a SaaS company.
Yeah.
Everyone probably still remembers TurboTax boxes on a shelf. We're not shipping CDs anymore.
Absolutely.
We're a SaaS company.
That's right. And the more data that you guys have, the better that your services that you're able to provide to your customers. And that's really what we look to do at as Clumio too, is that we can provide more services in an iterative and continuously updating our processes to our customers in an agile fashion. So when we look at how today's backups complexities are, you have a private cloud, you have the public cloud, and you had the SaaS applications. And majority of where we see growth in the enterprise is not necessarily in the private cloud, but it's going to the agile workforce, buying the SaaS, and it has the best practices because that's more business value to you. You're a line of business enabler. You're not going to be a backup application.
That's right. And there's confusion in the industry, I think, about how cloud is approached versus on-prem. They are not exactly the same beast, though you can accomplish the same outcomes. And so if you look at an EBS volume that has 3 nines of data durability, that's not the same thing as deploying on pick your on-prem provider that usually has around 6 nines of data durability. You can still get snapshots, but it just changes the economies of scale of how you have to think about data protection, which was a forgotten monster in the on-prem world, and it's just as much forgotten in the cloud world. And so, some scary numbers. Data loss is up 400% since cloud adoption. And it's not necessarily that the hardware is failing more with 3 nines of data durability. It's that human error now doesn't have a backstop. It fails at the speed of software. And when you think about 140,000 hard drives failing globally per week, there's a good chance that hardware may actually catch you out, even if it's not a user. Today, every incident of data loss is assumed to cost a company $100,000. And the global impact of that right now is estimated at $1.6 trillion of data loss per year. Are you a part of that or not? Maybe you are. Maybe you're not even thinking about it. High availability is confused with data resilience and disaster recovery. They're not the same thing. I can take an RDS volume, and the thing that keeps me, or an RDS database, the thing that keeps me up at night is somebody with sysdba access coming in, setting retention to 0 in my snapshots, and dropping a table. How do you protect against that? The answer is you need something with cross-account backups. You need a different model, and you need to think about it in a different way. Intuit does. We're backing up 20 plus petabytes of data in the cloud. We're using partner services, we're using AWS services, and we're looking at how we can fully automate this. We're also using a ton of homegrown service because companies like Clumio didn't exist 5 years ago when we started this journey, so we've been building these things all on our own. And I don't want to be in the backup business. I want to give all the things I've built away and push the easy button.
Yeah. And we're seeing 30% year or quarter over quarter growth in your software business, and the characteristics that we see in you, it shouldn't be uncommon for the next generation businesses. They're going to have thousands of accounts inside of public cloud, and they're going to look for simplicity and efficiency in the way that they're going to be able to deploy data protection.
Intuit's on the leading edge of the cloud journey. Like Capital One is close to us. There's a handful of other companies, and when you talk to other customers that are trying to do the same things we've done, they have some of the challenges we had, and some of them aren't. Some people approach their account journey a little differently, but we've taken a very important both blast radius approach as well as true democratization of the cloud. So by having thousands of accounts, yes, we're pushing the boundaries on what the cloud is capable of, or even some of our partners. What it really does is it creates agility for all of our developers to be able to continually develop fast-moving services and outpace our competition.
Amazing.
I'm hiring, by the way.
That's right. So when we look at, there's the data fragmentation too, because there's some customers and companies out there, they haven't made the journey all in that you guys. So they still have some things that are on-prem, that's a hybrid world. And then there's the public cloud, which AWS is the next generation, the best businesses are going to be built here, leveraging those tools. And then we also see the other SaaS services where I'm not going to be the best, well, you may not be the best backup service, but I am at Clumio. And so let's also other O365. We're going to have all these sources that are going to grow in data, and we need a common interface that's going to be able to provide global compliance in just a matter of minutes, as well as be able to report it too. It's important to back it up, but also to prove that you can do that. So that's where Clumio steps in.
When you guys have it working 100% for me, give me the easy button. I'm watching. Let's see it.
It's on its way. I have some of my developers right here. They're just coding to make that easy button right there. So when we look at today in the native AWS services that are there, there's a skill set gap that's also out there in the public population of who we're able to employ, right? Spending the time having to create what you guys had to go through the journey of building your own scripts. Often customers can't do that now, and services like Clumio will help fill those gaps. So the cost of snapshots, the retention, and building those long-term, it just adds up for our customer base, and we look to help solve that, as well as providing more of an air gap solution to protect against what would be a rogue script or even ransomware, which we're seeing happening more and more often.
You know, the cloud isn't just somebody else's data center. I mean, it really allows you to erase a lot of tech debt. And I think that's what a lot of the newer companies are not being saddled with the history of. Fortunately, Intuit is a 35-year-old software company, but we've evolved. Many can't, and they get labeled and saddled with all of this technical debt. And that's something that both the cloud is enabled, I think, in a way that's never been around before.
Yeah.
And AWS is obviously the 1,000-pound gorilla in that market.
And it sounds like, I mean, the cost of innovation is way less expensive than the cost of catching up.
Absolutely. I mean, you can go follow Intuit's history and all the challenges they've had and the competitors. There was a product called Microsoft Money 15 or 20 years ago that that Intuit ran circles around, and now with AWS, we're continuing to run circles around our competition.
That's right. Well, let me show you guys what we've been bringing to the table here, which is to protect the next generation of businesses, the next generation of how we're deploying services. How about that? I solved it on my own.
Hey, there you go.
So here we have the Clumio interface, and what we're doing at Clumio is we're providing you a global view of multiple data sources. Those data sources could be inside of VMware. They could also be inside of AWS. You could have multiple regions, multiple accounts. The challenge within AWS is that every single time that you deploy a new service, you have to also define what is the protection policy. Your weakest link is going to be whether or not you actually chose the right selection. Within our solution, we're able to get a global index of your entire environment, and then you are able to apply policies to that. And let me just show you just how simple the policy creation is. You can have global long-term retention in just a matter of minutes. So if I were to create this policy and just say, for the purpose of AWS test, and I said, you know what, I want to back up my data every hour. I want to make sure that I keep those hourly backups for 7 days. I want to have my long-term retention and compliance goals all in one policy. I create that policy, and I go around and I look for what assets do I want to apply that to. Here is an example where I have more than one AWS account. You can see today that I'm already protecting over 400 volumes or EBS volumes with those policies. So I can click into my all accounts, and I can see there's 2 separate AWS accounts. These accounts could be in multiple regions. One of the things that we enable with this is that you could do a backup in one region and do a restoration in another at no additional charge to your customers. So if you think about the ability to have a copy reuse where you're refreshing production environments and to your pipeline and your test or dev, it's extremely powerful. It's something that you're not able to do with just traditional snapshots. So here I look in, I see that I have multiple backups here. I'll go into the lab policy here and just show and select from a purpose of that I've already had these backups in place. I could do a redirected restoration, meaning that here's an EBS volume. It was protected just a matter of a few minutes ago, and if I go into my advanced mode, I can do a restoration to another account. Again, no egress charges are being done for our customers here. They have the full flexibility that you would expect on-prem, no compromises. So we just show, we'll go there, pick a new AZ, hit restore, and we're restoring a new volume into an entirely different AWS account. This is not snapshot management. This is a true copy of your data and it's in an immutable format that protects you from ransomware. You don't pay for the retentions. We encourage you to back up your data as long as you need and without any compromises, and we don't raise the price just because you're storing data for 1 year or 7 years. It's a consistent flat rate. So it's 100% predictable, and that allows you to move more data to the cloud without fear of cost. Now we do backups because we like to do restores. I just showed a restore. We also do file level restorations from the first backup. There is no need to mount a volume to an EC2. You can do an immediate backup of it or a restoration of the file level. Now I created that policy. I can just show you just how easy it is. That one that I showed in the demo. We'll go to an unprotected entity, and you can see I would apply right here, demo vol 01, and I would just say apply policy. Once I apply the policy, it would just be protect the tag, environment, demo. And you can see the AWS test. I've just changed that policy there. Now that EBS volume is going to have hourly backups, and we'll have a 7-year retention, just like that. We can apply it across multiple tags at once. So I think it's a really quick demo. Our onboarding process takes all of about 2 minutes, where we deploy a CloudFormation template, gives us an access to your inventory, and we can just start reading your tags and applying policy to save your bacon. Any questions on that, guys?
I'm also happy to answer any questions about Intuit's cloud journey or our scale or anything else you may be interested in. We can get a microphone.
Anybody have a question? You can just raise your hand, and I will happily bring you the mic so everybody can hear it. Anyone? Anyone? Okay, we got one up front.
I happen to know you have a lot of AWS accounts, but how do you manage that? How do you orchestrate across all those different accounts? And can you share, is it in the tens, hundreds, thousands?
So we have around 3,400 production AWS accounts today. So it is true democracy in the cloud. But of course, you can imagine the type of data we have and how important it is to us to protect that data and stop either data loss or data exfiltration. And so we've actually had to create AWS actually has some products for this now, but we had to create our own policy engines. We had to create our own account management templates. And so there was a lot of work being an early adopter. And most of that stuff tends to be homegrown software today.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions? Going once? Going twice? Okay.
So
Thank you,
Intuit's done a great job. You guys have had phenomenal success and growth. One thing that you haven't done really well is forecasting your earnings. You guys have blown it out every single time for like the last, 2 years, where you exceeded expectations. And it's got to be due to the fact that you guys have adopted innovation, continuously changing, and nothing more is expected from the partners that you depend upon to deliver your technology services.
You got to keep moving the needle. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you much.